Hello and welcome to Radio Primavera Sound once again. And it is an absolute pleasure to be here with, I'm going to go for a legend of British music, Ian Broudie, a.k.a. Well, I was going to say a.k.a. the Lightning Seeds. That's a question I want to ask. But how are you doing, Ian?
I'm okay, actually. It's very nice to be here. Nice to be chatting to you.
So it's a pleasure to speak to you as well. But so I think I better sort of address what I was just saying. I was about to say AKA the Lightning Seeds, and I'm not sure if that's quite true. Because to what extent is the Lightning Seeds a band? To what extent is it you?
Well, actually, it's a movable feast, I would say. Sometimes, because for a little while, obviously, I was a producer, and I didn't play live until the third album. And I played all the instruments myself for the first three. And then it was a band for a while. And, and it became, Lightning Seeds and stuff. But I was never really a fan of playing live. I didn't feel very comfortable with it. And then I let it go for a few years, really. I just didn't play live and I lost concentration, was off doing whatever I was doing. And since I've sort of returned, and Riley, my son, is playing the guitar, and Jim, whose uncle was the original drummer and has grown up with the Lightning Seeds, and Riley's pal, and Martin, who's always been it. And we've sort of been doing a lot of gigs over the last 3 or 4 years. And I think there's a real synergy there between us. Obviously, it's a family thing between the guitars. You really lock. Martin's, been a part of it forever. Jim, same thing. So I think for musicians, you're always searching. It's taken me a long time to realize, but you're always searching for an audience, obviously, but you're also, the way you're in the right band is because it's easy. So when you have a drummer, he can be a fantastic drummer, but you can find it hard to play over him. But at the moment, it's really easy. And I love everyone in the band, so I've suddenly started loving playing live. I feel like a troubadour going from field to field, and wherever it might be in the world. And it's my favorite thing at the moment. So I would say it's a band at the minute, really, but it has changed over time.
So I'm fascinated with the fact that you've got your son Riley in the band, because we're both parents, and certainly my children I can't ever get them to listen to music I like. I can't get them to engage with music one bit. How did you do it?
It makes it sound like I indoctrinated him, and that's not what happened. I suppose we used to just play guitar in the garden together, and we used to play, and he'd discover things on YouTube, and at certain points, he discovered a lot of things that I liked in my record collection. Then he would, he had a period of being into bands I wasn't that into, but we always used to play together a little bit, and there just was a moment when I wasn't really playing live much, and someone asked me to do an acoustic show. A friend said, "Oh, would you do a few songs?" And I thought, I'll do it with Riley. We were always playing guitar, so we kind of got up together and we did a few songs, and it kind of went on from there. And he's now my manager, so I actually work for him.
Wow, that's an interesting dynamic. How does that work?
Yeah, no, we've always got on really well. So he's the best manager I've ever had, that's for sure. Mind you, that's not a high bar, but but it's really good because he can get me to do things, and he can tell me the truth in a way that maybe other people can't. Do you know what I mean? Not that I'm particularly difficult in that way, but it's like I get the bottom line from Riley. I don't get any fluff at all. It's like, so it's straightforward. Yeah,
he would tell you if he thought a song wasn't up to scratch. He would tell you.
He's very good in the way, he's very good in the way he would tell me. I always remember, I think that's an art that's being lost actually in music. Everything's becoming so online and going to schools to learn it. And all of that's brilliant. And I don't want to sound like an old stick in the mud. And it is a brilliant thing. I always remember there was a guy who was a bit of a rascal, really, a bit unscrupulous, but a real 60s music man. And when I was doing the first Lightning Seeds album, there wasn't really a label, but he just encouraged me to do it because he thought there was something there. And I always remember, that subject that you were just talking about, telling people something's wrong or something's right. Now it seems, you get an email saying, we don't like this, and I always remember my first experience of that. And I was with Riley's mum, actually. I was in the house, and I sent off a track I'd just been recording called All I Want. And I sent it off, and I had to phone him. He was like the boss, the record company, to see what he thought, and it got sent down and all that. And I remember having this conversation with him and all that, and he'd said to me, what he thought and stuff. And I came off, and Riley's mum said to me, so what happened? Did he like it? And I said, oh, he loved it. He thought it was great. Thought the chorus was brilliant. We're going to redo it next week. And, and the two things, she looked at me and she said, you're redoing it next week. But the way he told me was such a positive experience that I finished the phone call feeling fantastic, you know what I mean? And it dawned on me, in the following hour that I was re-recording it. So obviously it wasn't that great, but that was an art that those people had, and I think there's still a lot of that goes on. And I think when you're dealing with artists, it's really helpful if you've kind of got that kind of way of talking to artists, because I think, it really helps. I went into re-recording it feeling great, really, and I made a much better recording of it, but I didn't feel a pressure because I felt like the previous recording was a success. But somehow I was redoing it, to reach higher fruits, even better. But I think, so that positivism is really good. And I think Riley's quite good at that dark art that we're talking about.
Yeah. How good are you at doing that? When you got the band rehearsing, let's say someone plays something in a way you don't like, they're your songs, that you've been playing them for years. How good are you at saying, no, not like that, or
faster, higher tone?
I think that is a bit of an art, and I think I'm in good stead with that, because mainly that issue that you're talking about happens a lot when you're producing. And obviously I was a producer. I produced a lot of bands, produced Echo and the Bunnymen when I was a kid, and the Fall and the Zootons and the Corals. So I have a good communication, and I think there's a balance between allowing people to flow creatively so that they can add something, because you want their input, but you only want their input in a way that you can direct it, So I think, there is a way of, kind of curating that without offending anyone, and letting people, I think you have to let people breathe and make things their own. Yeah. But at the same time, it's your vision, and I think I treat it like I'm producing the rest of my band. And, that's how I do it, really.
Plus, I mean, what a school, having produced someone like Mac the Mouth, Ian McCulloch, and Marky Smith. Not two of
not the easiest
lead singers. What was it like? What memories do you cherish from working with someone like Marky Smith? Because we've heard legends and lore.
Yeah, no, I mean, those people are characters, and I love characters. And I think in terms of, I think certainly when I was younger, I was so oblivious and so obsessed with the music that my relationship with those people just became all about the songs. And I think you do get people who are like that, and if they're good, they really care about their songs. And I think when they see that you do, there's a mutual thing that kind of grows up. So particularly with Marky Smith, I did something that now I cringe at, really, which was I'd just written the first couple of songs for the Lightning Seeds, and something that you shouldn't really ever do when you produce someone is saying, this is my song, you want to listen to it. It's like, but actually I did that, and Mark was so encouraging, and he was so pushed me in, because I wasn't sure whether I was going to record them. I felt like, I think they're good and I want to do it. And he was really encouraging and pushed me into it, came up with names from a group, used to write me letters about it. So really surprisingly, he was very encouraging. And of course, Ian McCulloch, who I've been friendly with since before he was in Echo and the Bunnymen. So the same thing, they've both been very supportive of me, you know, and it's hard for Ian to be supportive of anybody else.
So the reason we're talking is you're celebrating 35 years of the Lightning Seeds this year, including gigs in Spain, which is a wonderful thing. How does it feel to reach the 35th anniversary of the band?
Surprising, you know, shocking. You know, you're like, what? You know, can that be true? You know, but it is true. So you kind of want to celebrate it. I feel like it hasn't been 35 years of continuous. And, you know, back in the day, I should have played a lot more live. I should have come to Spain. Riley was little and I wanted to spend time with him. And that coincided with that time. So I really didn't do as much. And also I didn't really like playing live in those days. So I feel like I think it's a really interesting thing, the way the world is at the moment with the internet, the way music is consumed, the way bands now, where they used to be gone in 3 years, they're still around. You can go on YouTube and see someone in their prime. You can see Sinatra in his prime in a zoot suit, giving it loads, you know, and which you couldn't do before, you know. So music has a half-life that's much, you know, longer. And I think for me, the 35 years, I want to celebrate it. But the last few years of playing, we've done a lot of shows, and I feel like we're on the up, which is a weird thing, but we seem to be getting more and more people and more gigs, and the gigs are very busy here now, and we're playing to a lot of people, and it feels like there's a big forward momentum.
Yeah, you know why that is? Hits. You've got the hits, man. I mean, I remember like I had it on cassette, one of your greatest hits compilations, and I wasted that cassette listening to it back and forth. Lucky You, I don't know,
Life O'Reilly, Pure, you showed me. I think that is true. I think when you come to this point in your career, it becomes about songs. It really does. It's the songs that either live on or don't live on, really, you know. And I'm lucky in that I think the records that are made, they don't like, they didn't sound like the records around us in Britpop. They weren't like guitar driven. I was using samples. I was kind of slightly ahead probably in the way that I made the records. So they still get played on the radio a lot. Yeah. And so they're kind of still alive. And I think that's very perceptive. I think it is true. It comes down to the songs. But then also there's a kind of vibrancy that seems to have grown up around when we play the gigs. And I feel quite inspired in the studio. And it's very tricky to know. You know, it's very tricky for a band. You know, if you get to, if you're playing a festival for 45 minutes, and, you know, people really want to hear the songs they know. Yeah. You've got some new songs you'd love to play as well. I'm finding the balance of that. But I think there is two worlds. There's the world on stage and there's the world in the audience. And I think it's always been I've always valued the world of the audience higher than the world on stage and tried not to be self-indulgent, you know. Yeah. So I kind of want the gigs to be a party and everyone to know a lot of the songs, but then I slip in a couple of new ones and a couple off the albums, you know, and it does tend to, you know, the gigs have been feeling great.
Yeah. Speaking of greatest hits, there's a new compilation coming out in October. Tomorrow's Here Today. What can we expect from it?
Well, Tomorrow's Here Today. I wrote my autobiography. Well, it isn't really an autobiography, but it's kind of a memoir. There was a book that came out last year called Tomorrow's Here Today, which is a line from a song called Perfect that we had, or still have. And so I think that's what you can expect from the gigs, really, that I'll be playing. You know, it's a 35-year celebration of the back catalogue. There's a couple of new ones that are sneaking, but they're pretty good. And you know, the gigs tend to be quite boisterous. I don't know what they'll be like in Spain because we haven't been there for so long. But in England, they're definitely loud, you know, and fun, and everyone's having a few drinks and enjoying it. So hopefully we can create that same atmosphere there.
Have you been playing with Rick Astley?
That's such a funny way of putting that question. But
no, it's good. I think the reason I asked it was well, I mean, I was kind of looking at it and I pretty much knew you had. I just think it's kind of he's fascinating. His sort of development. He's become like this sort of national treasure, doing like Smiths covers and stuff. I mean, like people.
Foo Fighters bring him on.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm just wondering. Yeah, what the gigs have been like.
Yeah, Jim, to be honest, we haven't played with him yet, but we have a few scheduled. So I'm looking forward to that because, as you say, I've met Rick a fair few times. You know, I we're not big pals, but we've met, a fair bit. Yeah. And it has been great watching him, just have this same thing, really, just this second life, really, And he, as you say, it was really, I think he was taken aback when the Foo Fighters suddenly said, get up on the stage, and that sort of kicked something off and then, doing the Smith songs. So I'm really looking forward. We're doing a couple of gigs. I think it's with Madness and Rick Astley.
Wow, yes.
So that's going to be with Rick Astley's songs, our songs, and Madness's songs. That's going to be some day, really.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask, we talked a bit, you mentioned Britpop, who do you think are your peers? So I was thinking about it. I can't quite put it in, because the 90s sort of don't quite fit in, if you see what I mean.
No, definitely, yeah. No, I mean, I think Britpop was happening. We were there before, I suppose. I remember when Pure came out, and there was, in the UK, there was the indie charts. And there was a show called The Chart Show, and it used to be the Stone Roses, She Bangs the Drums would be number one and we'd be number two, and then the next week we'd be number one and they'd be number two, and we'd switch around, and that was the stuff. That was the moment that Pure came out and Lightning Seed started. And then later, when I started playing live in about 1994 and Jollification came out, and then I was on an indie label then, and then I was on a major label, Sony, and then Britpop was happening, and we were sort of in this lane alongside them, really, and we weren't part of it. I suppose that's Blur and Oasis, and it's guitar music. And I was really into the idea. I think on Jollification, I still hadn't played live, so I was playing everything. And I'd heard De La Soul, and I was fascinated by the way De La Soul were using samples and bits of songs. So, me and a guy called Simon Rogers, we sort of set up all our equipment in my brother's front room, and we just sampled different records into our little sampler, and we made the record like that, really. So it was just a lot of loops, and kind of the way everyone makes records now, but the computers weren't there to do it at that time. So we had a 2-inch machine and a little sampler, and we were trying to get everything in time and in tune, And so actually that record, even though it was at the same time and kind of the vision is me with a guitar, and when we play live, it's very much like a guitar. Well, it is a guitar band, and I don't really try and play the records particularly. We just play the songs, and that's always worked really well. But the actual record doesn't sound anything like those Britpop bands, and especially when you go back to it now, it just doesn't sound the same. So it was good for us, really, because we kind of were a part of something, but we weren't a part of it, So it's kind of giving it I don't know. I think maybe it's had a disadvantage and an advantage,
Yeah, but speaking of songs that have become part of British history, even bigger than Britpop, even it's so iconic. I mean, I consider Three Lions to be the best football song ever written. There's just something about it.
That's another low bar, though, isn't it? That is another low bar.
No, because there's always been this thing, especially in British music press, about anyone who made an attempt to write a World Cup song. I love New Order's one, World in Motion, but I remember Noel Gallagher saying, "Oh, they're all a bit pony and stuff," and they get dragged a little bit by the music press, but. I had these friends who would always DJ Three Lions. They'd play it, and we're not. We're Spain. It's not, if we go with a team, we'd go with Spain. There's not like this niche kind of thing where there's like massive Spanish supporters of the English selection or anything. But it's because it's a really great song to play in a club with and the chanting and stuff. And obviously, if you're listening to it in Mallorca and Magaluf, you know, in some pub, and everyone's got the England football shirt and it gets Larry and stuff, then you sort of, you know, it's like Chumbawamba with
its charm, yeah.
Yeah, it might lose. But if you hear it in an indie disco DJ set, and then you've got all these sort of, you know, you've been listening to Common People from Pulp, and all of a sudden 3 Lines comes. I don't know. How do you feel about having made a song that gets chanted in every game?
Yeah, well, I'm pleased about it, obviously. I've had a mixed relationship with that song because it's sometimes been difficult because everyone takes a meaning from it and you have no control of that. So obviously when it was written, I wanted to write something. I mean, I wanted to write the equivalent of You'll Never Walk Alone. I'm a big Liverpool fan, and that's all about the fans, community, and suffering together. And you know, maybe, as Jurgen Klopp said, learning to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, you know, even though it's a journey of kind of suffering. So It's Coming Home was about the competition, because there hadn't been a football competition for 30 years held in England. So the It's Coming Home reference was, oh, you know, football's coming back. We're going to have a competition here. You know, it's taken on another meaning. And when I finished it, the FA didn't like it because they wanted the team on it, and they wanted it to say, you know, and they were like, you've got to change all those words, and you know, so they really try and, you know, after the games they don't play 3 Lines, they play Neil Diamond, you know, which is the Boston Red Sox song and a rugby. And has no connection with the English. And I find that a little bit annoying, you know, because they just don't like it. I don't know. They feel it's, you know, I don't know what they think. But even, you know, so, but I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of the melody. I think it's a really well-constructed song. You know, I thought the New Order one was okay. When I was thinking about writing an England song, and everyone always goes, because I'm a big fan of New Order. But actually that song was very much kind of England. It was very much that coked up kind of, I'm not allowed to say that, but druggy, thuggy England, you know, Keith Allen kind of thing. And I'm not a massive fan of that vibe with the England fans out. And I think we wanted to do something that was a little bit more, took it away from that feeling, you know, and was a little bit more vulnerable than that, really, you know.
So what was the last thing you heard? We were like, Johan was giving his opinion on why football songs didn't work.
Fail, yeah. I mean, 3 Lines, funnily enough, 3 Lines was number 1 before the competition started. And then the Fugees brought out that great record, and then they knocked us off. And then as the team started playing well, it went back to number 1, and then the Fugees again, a new release, let's knock us off. And they kept doing that, you know. So it was kind of around. And then, you know, it kind of came back to a new generation in 2020. So I'd like to think that's the value of it being a good song, really, you know. And I think personally, it's because it's about, it's not when you go to write a football song, you probably start writing about the team and about winning. And I think it's a song about the fans and about suffering, which I think is most people's experience. You know, however much you win, you know, it's the losses that really get you, isn't it? You know, so I think I approached it like a Lightning Seed song with that bittersweet. There is a kind of happiness, but a sadness within it, you know. And so I just approached it as a song, not as a football song, really, you know.
One thing that always struck me about Lightning Seeds was that you seem to get it exactly right from the start. Like Pure is kind of like an almost perfect Lightning Seed song. Did you feel that? Did you feel that when you got it, you were like, okay, this is exactly how we want to sound? Or was there like loads of sort of experimenting and playing around to get it like that?
I talk about that in my book, funnily enough, so it's fresh in my mind. So what happened was, you know, I'd become a producer, and I didn't really want to be a producer, and my friends Echo and the Bunnymen were like, we'd like you to produce. I was like, no, and then I started to be a producer, and then it came to a point after a couple of years, and I thought, I'm a songwriter, if I don't do my songs, it's never going to happen. But I don't have a band, and I don't have a record. I don't have it. So I recorded these couple of songs, and there was a guy, this guy called Dick Lee, who I'd produced something for, and he'd said to me, I think, you're a bit more than a producer, the way you're doing this. And if you ever have anything, send it me. And he was like a 60s impresario with a cigar and, so I had 3 songs, and I was working on Pure, and I just thought, I'd never written a song myself, the words and the music. And I thought, I was sort of getting to the end of recording, and I just thought, this is wrong. There's too many words in this. Other people's lyric sheets are like this. This has got, lion smiling in the dark. I've murdered. So I said to the engineer, let's scrap this one. It's not happening. And he was like, I think it's really good. Let me put it down on. I said, well, we won't mix it. Just pop it down onto the tape for the we'll make a record of it. And then we did the other 2, and I sent them off. And so all the bit at the beginning where it starts with that intro, bop, bop, that's me getting in time, ready to go, da, da, da. So if I'd finished it, I would have cut that off. And I think half the reason it did so well is because that's there.
Yeah.
And, basically for me, it was an unfinished song that I didn't mix, and I didn't have a record contract, a band, or a manager. And I sent it off, and I got a phone call from this guy, and he said to me, do you know what? I'm sitting in my back garden, the sun's shining, I've got a glass of Chablis, and I love this song that you've got. It's fantastic. And I said, oh, great, which one? And he said, Pure. And I said, no, that one's scrapped. And he said, no, that's the one I want to put out.
That's the one.
And I was like, that's not, I haven't mixed that, I haven't finished it really, it's not. And he said, I could try and finish it. He said, no, you can't touch it. It's just got to come out like that, And I was like, well, we haven't got, we haven't got a record contract or anything. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'll get 500 copies pressed up and we'll put it out. So that's kind of what we did. And Rough Trade agreed to kind of, put it in the shops. And it came out 500 copies. And then it, over a period of months, sold a few more. And then we got some more done. And then the radio stations started playing it. Then they started playing it in America. And it's just over a period. So there was literally, it wasn't finished. There was no record company. There was no, so it was like, for me, a miracle really that changed my life, made me into a songwriter, gave me a career, and for me, and transformed my life. It's like, I'm so grateful. So 3 Lions is great, but Pure is like a miracle to me,
And you mentioned earlier, I think you're working on a few new songs. The latest album was 2022's See You in the Stars, which is a great album.
Thank you.
So you got 3 new songs for the tour, right?
I don't think I'm going to play them all on the tour, but I'm going to do, because I think, people's tolerance, people want to hear a lot of the old songs, really. So I usually put 2 new ones in and rotate and do different ones, different nights. But I think I'm going to record 3 new songs, and hopefully 2 of them can be out in the following couple of months leading up to the tour and go to radio, and hopefully everyone will love them,
Well, look, thank you so much for speaking to us. You're playing Madrid, 15th of October, Barcelona, 16th of October, Valencia, 17th of October. What would be the best thing to drink? We'll go to Barcelona. What would be the best thing to drink, you reckon?
You look like shocked.
Well, that's not such a strange. It's like I've asked the worst question.
You've put me on the spot there. I mean, lager comes to mind because I'm thinking, but I don't want that imagery of the 3 Lions, But I really like that song, and I don't associate it. You see, so I don't know. Nice. It's because I'm in a lager kind of mood.
What about Compromise? Gluten-free lager.
All right,
gluten-free lager. Very good.
Somehow it takes the thug out of the lager.
Yeah. Good suggestion, Ian. We look forward to seeing you here at Play Our City. and we hope you.
I'm really looking forward to coming. To be fair, I love Barcelona, and Riley's mum lives there, so
perfect.
A fair bit. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Good family reunion, and have a wonderful summer.
If England win, what a summer you're going to have.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what a summer you're going to have anyway.
I'm not counting on that.
No. But you never know. I support Scotland, and that's not looking good.
Okay, well, they're playing tonight, actually, aren't they? Well, they're probably not for this interview, but yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
Well.
All
Great
right,
talking to you,
to you both, and lovely to meet you over the internet, and hopefully do see you in person. Yeah, take care.
See you soon, Ian.
Thank you.
Right.
Ciao.